What's up, my friends? It's Camiel Daamen, your online Ableton certified trainer. Still with his sunglasses. I hate saying it. I went to the optician today, but still waiting for them to repair. So, I also asked to get some other glasses fixed. So I actually have a backup next time because even though I got used to looking like a rock star on the screen. Anyway. You're not here for my stories about my glasses. You're here to learn something new. And today I'm going to show you how to make a chord stab. You know, we use all the time. We use these samples. And I wanted to show you how to make those from scratch using analog and drift. You can use any synth for that matter. You can use saw waves combined with sine waves. You can use square waves and saw waves. I'm going to run you through the whole thing. You know, it's going to be a little bit, maybe a longer tutorial than usual, but maybe you like to learn this new skill. It's very nice if you make like sort of deep housey or maybe house or maybe techno. It doesn't really matter. These chord steps are used in many, many different electronic music genres, and all you need is a chord and a plugin or a synth. And I put a kick drum loop for my Lessons in Life sample pack that I made in 2022. By the way, if you want to support what I do, go to lessonsinlife.com, go to the shop, and you'll find all the sample packs. There's even a deal. You get like, I think, all of them for $15, which is a great deal. And it's of course then you have samples, but I'm going to show you today how to make your own. All right, so I have the kick drum here, the kick drum sample. And just to have like a little, I always recommend this when you make something that you have a little thing going on. So I'll make a little MIDI clip here. And, if you want to make something in a certain scale, remember you can set the scale here, or for the whole project, you can set the scale. You can say, okay, let's make something in C minor, or let's not do C, let's do A minor. And, you'll see all the notes are highlighted. If you don't hear anything, you got to click on this alien. Well, it's a headphone, but it looks like an alien. So first, what you always want to do with a dub chord or with a chord stab is take the filter down. So it's actually sounding like but like nice. It sounds like more like a little bit nicer. And then we have to make a chord. So if we make a chord, you can set a chord here. You can set a note on the root of the scale. Then you skip a note, and the next note in the scale you put. Then you skip a note in the scale, and the next note you put. You can do this again. If you do this again, if you have four notes, it's actually a minor seventh, which is a really nice chord, right? It's like one of those nice ones. You can also make only using three, the minor triad, you call this. Sounds a little bit less jazzy. You can continue making another one. It gets more and more jazzy. You can also move this one all the way down. Super nice chord. So let's use this one, and let's make it short. Let's make it a little bit like. A little bit. So basically you can make longer sounds, longer chords, or like, like longer notes. But let's take this short one and let's loop this bit here. And always, straight from the plugin, it sounds a little bit boring. So you always want to add like something like a chorus, maybe a little bit reverb, and maybe another chorus. Chorus, reverb, chorus is a genius invention. You can just like, make it a little bit more drier. You can add a little low cut on the reverb and add a little bit more, like 2-3 seconds. There you go. It's nice and lush. If you want to have it less lush, take the amount down on the chorus. Make it a little bit slower, the chorus, so it's like more, gets a little bit slower. There you go. And now the thing that's going to make this chord more interesting is when we start using some sound design skills, right? You got two oscillators, both running a saw wave. And we can slightly detune those to make it more, right? You hear, this is like very clean, but if you want to make it a little bit more, starts you get a little bit like this wideness. You can also add some unison if that's on your synth. It's sort of like a chorus effect that makes it wider. And you can always explore, like, what if I make this a sine wave and put that an octave lower? Ooh, and then maybe a little bit softer. So now we have two layers. We got this one, right? The lower one and the higher one. And together they are, that's nice. So you can use oscillator 2 in this case to make like a lower kind of sound, like an octave lower, and make this one a little bit higher. You can also make them sort of like already a chord. But then it's difficult when you're using multiple notes and you use a seventh note up for the oscillator, you get maybe a little bit more dissonant. So maybe that's not recommended, but a little detune goes a long way. So that's how you can play around. You can also try and use a square in a saw, you can hear you get different kind of super low, different kind of sounding sounds. So one is what kind of waveforms are you using? Are you detuning them? Making one a little octave higher or lower? You know, are you using some unison or some widening to make it nice and big? The next thing is your filter. So, right? And there is this thing, you know, an amplitude envelope, you know, where we can set how the sound behaves over time. If it's like, wow, if you have an open attack. If you don't know what ADSR is, I recommend you to follow one of my sound design boot camps or follow one of my music courses that I do as lessons in life. But, you know, usually attack, decay, sustain, release are 4 modulation phases that we can apply to our sound. So if you have an attack that's longer, like an open attack, the sound will slowly come up in volume. And the decay is like a little, lowering in energy after the initial burst of energy here with the attack. And as long as you hold the note, the sustain is the volume that you keep if you hold the note. So if I hold a note, if I play a note here, it stays on this level. If I put it all the way down, it goes away. And this is how, and you know, the decay determines then how short or how long it is until it reaches the sustain. And releases whenever you release the note, how long it takes before the note turns off, right? So for the volume goes all the way down. That's amplitude envelope. So that's the ADSR for your volume. But your filter has one as well. And in analog, it's like when you click on the different sections, you get to the different sections for that particular parameter. So if we go to our frequency, so our filter section, we also have an ADSR. And this controls what this filter is doing over time. And we can assign it to the envelope. You call filter envelope. And if you assign it fully, this guy is gonna, with every note that I press, it's gonna make this move. So if I put all the way down, the sustain all the way down, a very short, you hear wow, 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 right? So if you get this, and if I make it longer, wow. If I make the note longer, you can hear what it actually does over time. Let me take the volume a little bit down here. Right, it goes down, and then it goes all the way down. If I have the filter like this, right, now the filter envelope keeps the filter open, but as soon as you start playing with this, right, so it's following this trend. So it takes 1 second to go, so it goes open and close every time you hit a note, right? Also nice to make bass lines, right? So the old school, you know, wow, wow, wow. You know, you can make these little things. But this is for chord steps. It's really nice. So if you make it really short, this is super cool. You can make it super short, and you have your chorus, reverb chorus. You can also add your delays. You know, make it a little nice, make a nice echo here. You know, make it ping pong, go left and right. You know, and then if you would repeat this note every so often, it actually gets interesting when you start either stacking delays or playing with this filter over time. So when I activate my automation, and you know, I click on the frequency and make this like, this is a low guy, here it's already a little bit higher, here it's super low, here it's super high, you know. Right here, super low. So also, like, the length of the note is really important. So if I say, okay, this is a very long note, then you get that, but if you make it short and stabby, and maybe you can make it shorter. This one is really low, maybe make it a little bit higher. Right, and it's cool. Usually when you can make your sounds a little bit either more dull and more bright, or shorter and longer, you get a lot of dynamics already into your music, which is super cool. So now to resume, we got an A minor scale with an A minor 7 chord plus, I think it's a ninth. You call this a ninth? I'm not sure. I'm not the best on music theory, but at least if you combine certain notes from that chord, from that scale, you get super cool chords. And you can, you can duplicate this, and say, oh, I want to have this somewhere else, but I want to have the same notes, but then maybe this an octave higher, this an octave higher, and this an octave higher. Get different results. Right? It's like sort of the same chord, but not really. Yeah, it's the same chord, but it's like a different inversion, as you call it. It's super nice to create variations. Okay, so that's nice. That's how to make a chord here on analog. Then I have another one. I'm going to mute this one for now. We're going to make one on drift. So if we load in a drift here, doesn't sound like much yet, but let's make a chord that's on the second here. So we're going to take our A, maybe an octave lower, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There it is. Your A, and maybe we're going to put the A on top. And the same thing goes for this one. We're going to say, okay, it's a little bit here. Let's take a chorus. Already sounds nice. A little bit less crazy, boom, a little bit slower. You can try ensemble and figure out maybe you like something on that. Maybe add a little reverb for some vibe, There you go. Boom, there you go. Super nice. Just, straight off the bat. Classic drift, like the default drift, works really well. What do we see? We have a saw wave and we have a sine wave. And you see the sine wave is lower. So actually, if we mute so if we play something, this is just the saw wave of the sine wave. This is the saw wave. And you can add noise. You can add noise for a little bit of like grid if you want. That's very used as well. And in drift, you can change the shape. If you automate this, you get a lot of like variations already, But to make this again, like make this like a nice chord step, what we need to do is close that filter, Play a chord. There you go. It's just the standard. Sounds super cool. And drift is really nice on this one. The amount of voices give you the amount of voices, like more, it sounds fatter, But let's see how our chord sounds now here. Nice, So how do we, if we change it a little bit here with the shape, right? So also this is really cool. If you want to create some variation, it's really nice to automate this or to put an LFO on this, to route that LFO to the shape of one. Do we actually have that? Or maybe if you don't want to figure that out, how to route it, I think you can actually, is there one to set it to shape? I think you can set LFO to the sear, LFO to the slide. That's one, but I also like visually, I really like it just to use the LFO from the audio effects. And set this to remote, map this by clicking map and then click on shape. Whoop, there it goes. And with the depth, you can say, okay, let's make it a little bit shorter, offset it a little bit to the left. And now you see the thing is just moving a little bit there on the left. I want it actually to and make it really short. So now every time it's random, Next time we're going to get one, it's going to be on a different position. Using these type of little LFOs is going to make your sound slightly different every time, making it more dynamic, right? That's super cool to do. Then the other thing, we have our envelope too. And as you can see here, this frequency modulation, like as I said, the filter envelope. So here's the amplitude envelope, like you saw in analog, right here with the amplitude envelope and the filter envelope. The same is in drift. We have like amplitude envelope. That's this section 1. Section 2 is depends on where you can set it to a lot of different things. But if you have it on envelope 2, and you can set how much it actually listens to it. This is actually negative. You can invert that value of your envelope, but you can also put it to 100%. Now it's 100% listening to this. So if I have the filter all the way closed here, this guy, and I go to my envelope of the filter, and I say, okay, it goes all the way up, and then it goes down. You get pow. You get really like this wow. So if we say, okay, I want this super short. Hardly does anything. A little bit longer. Give it like You know, and the more we open it, right? And now if we would make it longer, we're going to see, we're going to get like a little bit more of the effect. Still short, so we're going to go. Wow, right? You see now the decay, the envelope is long enough for the filter to hear that it goes from, right? So it goes like this. Takes like, let's say it takes 2 seconds. 1, 2, well, right? It's really nice to work this way. Maybe the resonance is a little bit down. The shape is actually going a little bit too crazy. Let me make it a little bit smaller. You can also open the text, see what that does. You get more wow, so then you get more the sort of dub techno. This is really nice if you take like a nice echo again. It's super cool. You get like this like more kind of dubby, kind of wow, wow, wow. You can make it left and right. You can do all kinds of stuff to it. But this is really nice to use in order to create sounds that are already every shot, every hit is moving a little bit around. And the only thing you need is like your saw wave with a sine wave, or a saw wave, and a saw wave also works. You know, if I change this to a saw wave as well. Right, super cool. And I like it with the open attack. Maybe we can combine the two sounds. Only because of the attack now, it feels a little bit like the sounds a little bit later. But you know, you can obviously then take these guys, make them a little bit earlier to make them more like on the grid here. Right? Sounds better. But yeah, this is the way that you can make chords, right? So whenever you make whenever you have like some kick loop or whatnot, you make a little clip. Whenever you're working in a key, remember you can make a note, skip the next note in the scale, place the next note, skip the note in the scale, place the next note. And this minor triad already works, but if you add a 7th and a 9th, and I think this is a 9th, 11th or whatever, 13th, I don't know. That's where my musical theory stops. But you know, this is nice. You can make big chords, and you can set the chords in any form that you like, any closer to each other to make it more jazzy. That's used a lot in Detroit techno, in dub techno, in house, you know, in more minimal stuff, you know. So yeah, try to play around. I hope this helps. You can do this with any synth, you know. If you have maybe you're a Serum guy or Serum girl, you can go, okay, let me take Serum here, boom. Just select here's your saw wave. You can add another one. You can do the same thing. You can slightly detune them so they get wider. Here's the unison, which is like spread, you know, same thing you saw at an analog. You have your filter, obviously, and here it works a little bit different. You just take an envelope and you drag the envelope, boom, to here. And then this envelope is going to determine how the filter will react over time. And if you do the same thing, that whenever you hit a note, you know, you set the filter close. Nope. You know, you get the same thing. Let me put it. You know, it's doing that same thing. If I have the sound a little bit longer, I play a chord. And the same thing goes also for the effects. You go chorus, you go reverb, maybe a little delay. Where's the delay? Delay. All right, go a little lower. See, you already get like a nice... You can open the attack again from the filter. See, it's always super nice. And opening the attack on a filter envelope, I really, really like it. Well, anyway, I hope this is clear and nice, and you're gonna make a lot of dub chords and make these nice dubby chord steps, deep housey chord steps, whatever. I hope you enjoyed. Have fun making music. If you like what I do, please either go to the links below, follow one of the courses, follow one of my boot camps, join my community on Patreon, get a nice cup for the studio, or get a nice shirt from Freeborn or Lessons in Life. Anything goes, so I can get my new glasses. Hope you enjoyed. See you at the next one, guys. Ciao.